Sun-God Nika just became even more busted, with chapter 1103 hinting that everyone from Zoro, Sanji, even Usopp might be getting a Gear 5 buff. It all honestly makes sense, especially when they're facing Devil God Fruit users like Saturn in the final war, and this dude just froze Sanji from saving a girl. Like, that is an impossible feat, so how are the Straw Hats gonna handle him? One Piece has its fair share of truly terrifying villains. You got Blackbeard orchestrating the death of Ace, Doflamingo conquering Dressrosa, and of course, Crocodile stealing water from an entire nation, but none of them hold a candle to Saturn. This six-legged monster just might be the most heartless character in this series, and through his actions managed to steal the happiness of Kuma's entire family. But when people find themselves in absolute despair, that is when the Sun God Nika will arrive and bring smiles back into their lives. However, when faced with someone as terrible as Saturn, one Nika might not be enough, and the latest chapter just opened the doors to multiple Nika boosted pirates taking down this Gorosei. After a very heartfelt flashback between Bonney and Vegapunk where he gives her a necklace from Kuma, we finally return to the battlefield where Saturn is gloating about killing Bonney's father as he holds her captive in his hands. And as if holding her hostage wasn't enough, at the same time Saturn, using his soul manipulation powers, has everyone from Sanji to the Marines frozen in place. To be able to freeze and overpower an experienced hockey user like Sanji is no small feat. This just goes to show that these Gorosei aren't just good at their fruit powers, but also wielding hockey. We know Sanji is number 4 in the crew right now, but this disrespect from Oda it's honestly uncalled for. What is Sanji gonna do next? Like, scream for Zoro's help? Because even Luffy is out of commission after beating down Kizaru and using Gear 5. So it really is up to Bonney to save herself here. Unfortunately though, Bonney is convinced she is a goner. So she gives herself a distorted future with Nika-ish powers, just like she had done in the previous chapters, in the hopes of killing the Gorosei at the expense of her own life. Here's the thing though, her powers don't quite work like that. Bonney's Devil Fruit ability, in effect, can transform her and anyone into any possibility she can think of, as long as it does not contradict her reality. This is how she ages people and makes them younger, because old grannies and grandpas along with babies are something Bonney conceives as truths. So the way Bonney was able to transform into her version of Nika was due to the stories she heard from Kuma. She believes in her father's story as something that is real, and being a child, her imagination and reality are not that far apart. However, Bonney's Nika mode fails to work against Saturn, and when she questions why, he tells her that her powers are not working because she's coming to the realization that Nika is not real, and her belief in him is dwindling. But she refuses this point, saying ever since her father was turned into a mindless slave robot, she has been looking for Nika and still believes he exists. To this, it's more likely that Saturn was the one to negate her movement, just like he had done with Sanji and the others, and to prevent Bonney from tapping into her potential, he's mentally manipulating her to let go of any idea of Sun-God Nika from her head. This goes back to Saturn's comment on how Bonney hasn't realized Luffy's white form is actually Nika, and if he can prevent her from finding out, then Bonney will not be able to fully transform, because dealing with 2 Sun-God Nikas, it's just busted. Like, he's not trying to catch that. However, all of this brings us to our theory on how Bonney will play a crucial role in Luffy's journey and join his crew, because when she finds out Nika is real and is not a contradiction to her reality, then she can freely become him and turn people into him, meaning Zoro, Sanji, and everyone else can get a Nika buff. However, for now, Bonney's belief in the future seems to have shattered. If it's not Saturn's power, it's definitely Bonney learning about the terrible things her father lived through and finding herself in a hopeless situation. Bonney no longer is confident in Nika being real because she hasn't made the connection between Luffy and the Sun God, meaning a Nika-ish future doesn't mean anything anymore, and as a result, her abilities fizzle. But seeing this moment of weakness, Saturn spins his webs and traps her in true despair. Saturn goes into how Ginny had been selected to be wife number 8, but was then experimented on and ultimately developed Sapphire Scale. This means that our balls deep theory about Saturn being the one who made Ginny sick was true, and by extension, he's the reason that Bonney needed to spend her entire life hiding from the sun. All of this proves that Saturn was responsible for Kuma needing to sacrifice himself in order to save Bonney. Saturn did all of this, and Kuma still had to beg and give up literally everything he had for this old man to allow Vegapunk to save his daughter. Like, this dude is pure evil. Honestly, this whole situation makes me think of Arlong in some weird way. For example, Nami faced unspeakable pain and suffering at his hands, but to save her sister and village, she needed to beg him for a deal to work for him and save everyone. In this case, Saturn causes all the pain, but Kuma still has to beg for a deal where he sells his body and soul just so he can save his family. Realizing that Saturn had used his own atrocities as a bargaining chip, he called Saturn a bit of a bastard. Holy shit, wait, Saturn is a bad guy? I didn't know that!
Shut your stupid...
But Saturn does not give a single care to this, as he just brushes it off and demonstrates just how perfect it is that he's a spider, saying, "Look at it from my perspective. Do you comprehend the feelings of insects you step on? Of course not." The irony is truly real here. Like, my bro is literally an insect. The dude is a true villain. Like, it's one thing for a character to do all these awful things. Hell, even if they enjoy it, we can at least understand them as just some kind of sadistic monster. But this is different. Saturn doesn't take joy in these things. He doesn't do them because he's evil, he just does them because he can. After everything we just saw Kuma experience and live through, we are met by coldness and indifference by this guy. Luckily, two things happen that bring us some semblance of hope. Firstly, someone delivered food to Luffy, and that means that our boy can heal up and get back into the fight, hopefully by the end of the next chapter. But if they had just delivered him some gamer subs using code ABD for 10% off, bro would have gotten up instantly. But sadly, they didn't. By the way, also check out their gamer tea. They have this ginger turmeric tea. It's so good. You guys should get that. While it isn't shown for certain who supplied the food, the community seems to think that Kizaru is our surprise savior here. As Saturn is giving his monologue and Bonney is being put in imminent danger, Luffy just suddenly is surrounded by food. When Saturn asks where it came from and orders that Luffy be stopped, we get a panel showing a bunch of Marines charging towards Luffy and Kizaru sitting quietly and not getting involved. This is very sus. Like, the only person who would have the speed to get all this food for Luffy is Kizaru. He's literally made of light. He is likely the one who could have done this without being noticed. Not only that, but we even see his ramen bowl peeking in from the left side of the page. Having just seen how involved Kizaru had been in Kuma's backstory, it makes sense that he would want to protect Bonney, especially after hearing Saturn brag about how he had caused all the misfortune that Kuma and Bonney had gone through. While he won't directly oppose the Gorosei, Kizaru will at least give Bonney a fighting chance at escaping. In the best case scenario, this might even lead to Kizaru taking a more active role in recognizing the government's evil in the same way Garp and Kuzan have. That all said, it's gonna take Luffy a minute to fuel up, but Bonney is in danger right now. So who's gonna save her? Wait, what is that? Are you guys hearing that? The wind is blowing. I think I even hear thunder. Oh my god, no way. Wait, even rain! It's raining! Goda, is that who I think it is? Holy sh! I think Dragon has arrived. Wait, that's not Egghead. That's still Kambaka Kingdom. Bro is still yapping. Oh my god, bro. Get your ass up and come throw some hands. It's been 25 years. Save your friends.
Them kids. The kids? Yeah.
Seriously though, but the hope is not lost, guys. And I know we're at the last straw of hopium and copium for Dragon. The agenda is falling apart, but this chapter has given us more evidence that Dragon will maybe come to Egghead. Because in this chapter, we see him and Eva talking about what would happen if a trace amount of Kuma's instincts remained after his transformation. We've had a small focus on Dragon's view on being present in the last few chapters, checking in on Luffy and even calling him his greatest vulnerability. This all needs to lead to something, and as we will see shortly, the idea of a father's instincts come into play in a massive way here, as Dragon and Eva have already ruled out the possibility of Kuma staying in Marineford. The only other places Kuma's instincts might bring him is Egghead or Sorbet Kingdom. Furthermore, on February 12th, the year of the Dragon Storm, which basically confirms Dragon will make his move this year. Yay! He's gonna use his power!
Yeah, boy.
They're gonna find the One Piece before Dragon does anything other than stare at the screen, bruh. Okay, seriously though, all hope is not lost. Dragon might not show up, but Kuma arrives on Egghead to save his daughter. The authority chips that keep him in control aren't working, and everyone's new favorite dad charges towards the Gorosei. Bonney starts thinking about how her heart feels like it is shattering. She would be better off dead. An almost direct quote to the moment Kuma found out his mother had passed away in chapter 1095. And just like back then, the crying child is comforted by their father. Kuma then winds up to take a massive swing at Saturn. Unlike everyone else, his individuality or his soul is no longer with him. So whatever force Saturn was using to keep everyone else down doesn't affect him. When Kuma's father consoled him, he had promised that if he survived, then the sun god would surely come set him free. Of course, this led to his dad being shot by a celestial track.
Damn.
But we all know how much Oda loves Perla, so while Kuma might not make it out of here alive, at the very least, he will buy enough time for his father's promise to come true and for Nika to finally reveal himself. Whatever happens, I believe that Bonney will have the most important role in the upcoming battle. So many questions remain about her devil fruit, but there are several possibilities. Firstly, she might see Kuma as the embodiment of Nika in this moment, arriving in the darkest hour to save people from the celestial dragons. If this is the case, she could infuse him with the power of Nika and give him the strength needed to overcome Saturn. While this would feel great after seeing that backstory, I doubt it's the path we're going to be taking. What I'm curious about is if Bonney's devil fruit could potentially revert Kuma to the point in the past where she knew him. This is a reality that she knows to be true, so it seems plausible. But at the same time, her fruit doesn't work on inanimate objects, and cyborgs are about as gray a area as I can imagine on that topic. The more likely scenario is Luffy joining the fight and being empowered by Bonney. It's clear that he doesn't have a grip on his sun god powers yet, but if Bonney could progress him to a point in the future where he has mastered it, a future where the Nika she spent her whole life believing in has become a reality, then we might be able to see a truly peak Luffy. Finally, this fully realized Nika Luffy should have abilities almost similar to an awakened fruit. We've seen Gear 5 Luffy be able to manipulate the environment around Luffy in battle. Even people inside Onigashima were affected by his haki and rubber powers. So a potential alternate path could be Luffy spreading Nika-ish powers to others like Sanji and Zoro. Similarly, seeing that Luffy is Nika would make Bonney confident in his existence, and as a result, she could imagine a future where she receives Nika-ish powers again. Remember, Bonney is a child and imagination and reality have very blurred lines. Regardless of how the battle progresses though, Bonney will have found Nika and completed one of her original goals as a pirate. Because of this, it is very likely that she will join the Straw Hats until she can take revenge on the world government. Whether that involves fighting the One Piece or taking down Marie Schwal, she will be along for the ride. And if you guys want to be along for the ride of witnessing peak shonen fiction in Jujutsu Kaisen, then watch this video on screen right now.